Welcome to the Black Gems Dive In podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into conversations about inclusive cultures and everything DEI. Your co-hosts are Kua and Kendra, and we're thrilled to be your hosts as we explore the crucial topics shaping our workplaces and communities today. In each episode, we'll unpack insights, share stories, and engage with experts to foster a deeper understanding of how we can create more inclusive environments where everyone feels valued and empowered.
Hey, Kua.
Hey, Kendra.
I'm back for another episode.
Another episode of the Black Gems Dive In podcast.
I missed y'all last week.
Yes, you did miss us last week. But it was a CGG takeover, so of course we did what we had to do.
Listen, Kim and Natalia, they definitely held it down.
Exactly.
So listen to that episode if you haven't. It's up now. So it was a really good episode.
Took a deep dive into like the glass cliff, all the conversations that have been happening now that, Kamala's put her hat in the ring, right? So a lot of conversations around that. But yeah, check out the episode if y'all haven't tuned in.
Yeah, so I'm so happy to be back on this couch. Yeah. Normally we're across from each other, but we're right next to each other. I think she missed me a little bit. But also too, it was your birthday. Shout out Leo season.
Leo season. Oh, you know how it is too. Like Leo season, we always got to come out, pop out, show everybody how we do. Every time.
Are you rested?
Not really. I mean, I had a good time. I went to DC, visited some friends there, and then from DC I went to Atlanta. So,
and we'll talk about some of your time in Atlanta, what you did. Yep. Excited for that.
Exactly. And before we just hop, skip, and jump, we need to talk about your transition, ma'am, because we kind of alluded to it the last podcast episode. Yes. So you got to tell the people like what's going on.
So back in February, I talked about how I was a free agent. Remember that was my exact words. On the work front. So now I am officially working again. Employed. Okay. Even though I was employed in my consulting. But I am now the Vice President of Programs and Organizational Advancement at Leadership Buffalo.
Let's go, Vice President. Let's go, Vice President.
So all things community, it kind of aligns with everything that I've been doing anyways. And really setting a strong foundation with the team there and being led by Morgan, who is the new CEO for 8 months. Yes. And really excited for what's to come. So,
So congrats.
Thank you.
Let's, you were about to just kind of skirt around that, but we had to, pause and really give that some
sometimes we don't give ourselves like our own flowers.
Exactly.
So I appreciate
that, friend. For that. So I got you.
Thank you, friend.
So
you see how we just be talking, but we are super excited because we have a full house today.
Yes, we
literally
do.
A full house. You can see with the pan here.
Right.
We have a full house, and I'll just let them go around and introduce themselves. But these are friends. These are all friends. These are colleagues, great community members, stewards of community. So if you guys can just go around, introduce yourself, and this podcast is really special because we get to talk about sports and golf and everything special. So I'm gonna start with my friend right here. I'm just a golfer.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ron Langhorne. As Kendra just said, I'm just a golfer, but beyond that, I am a golf coach with the First Tee of Western New York. I'm a trustee for PGA REACH, and I would consider myself to be a philanthropist in the things that we're doing for the next generation of golfers.
All right.
Great. I'm Steve Coulton, co-founder and VP of sales for OnCore Golf. We're a golf ball technology company. Also a board of trustee member, and happy to be here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Royce Woods. I'm a trustee member for PGA REACH. And during the day, I'm vice president for community development for Citizens Bank.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. John Osberg. I am the foundation director for PGA REACH Western New York. Also, just really proud to be in this room with these fine humans right here, all these trustees in the room, and a proponent for diversity and accessibility in the game of golf and putting golf clubs in the hands of people who've historically not had a chance to. So shout out to y'all for being a part of the mission, and excited to be here and get cracking on some great topics.
Awesome. Thank you, John. So yes, I'll be remiss to also say that I am a PGA trustee as well, and really excited for the things that's to come. And hopefully we can talk about the things that are happening right here in our backyard and giving people access who historically have not had access before. So we really appreciate you guys for coming on to our pod. And like anything else, we start with our diversity.
Dive on in, yo.
All right, yes, dive in. Diversity dispatch.
Yes. Diversity dispatch. So we've been, I think everybody's been watching the Olympics, right, as of late. And so it's been exciting. I don't know. I always think this is the most patriotic I've been when I'm rooting for Team USA against all other countries in the world, right? And so been watching it, been seeing a lot of cool stuff. What do you want to talk about as it relates to that?
Yeah, so we know that the Olympics have been more diversified this year than it's ever been. When we look back historically and we really look at the history of the Olympics and some of the just access that people didn't have previously, we are now seeing this DEI being put on a pedestal. And so there is a article that came out recently when it comes to gymnastics. So we know that we've been watching gymnastics since Gabby Douglas. I think I was watching gymnastics. And even before that, I know I was watching in 96 when the Olympics was here in Atlanta.
Right.
But we're really seeing that diversity is on full display in the Paris Games. And so there is an article in the U.S. News that came out recently that says gymnastics, a sport long associated in the U.S. with white athletes, has seen a dramatic shift in recent years with the likes of Simone Biles, Suni Lee, and Asher Hung, and Frederica, or is it Frederick?
Frederick
Richard, representing its changing face at the Paris Olympics. The dominant U.S. women's team is the most racially diverse in history, with 4 of its 5 members having Black, Asian, or Hispanic backgrounds, with the bronze-winning men's team is the most diverse since 2012, according to USA Gymnastics. Biles, the most decorated gymnast in history, who was competing in her 3rd games, said the sport has come a long way since she fell in love with it 6 years ago living in Texas. I know that it's like being the only Black girl on the team and not having a role model, she said in her recently released Netflix documentary, which was really good.
Yeah, it was good.
You know me and my documentaries.
You always on the documentaries.
I am. Thankfully, we had Betty Okino, Dominique Dawes, and Gabby Douglas, but that wasn't until later. And so we know Dawes and Okino overcame racial prejudice just to become the first 2 Black women to compete on the U.S. team in the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona, where they won bronze in the team event.
Yeah, so
over the years, it's become more diverse, and it's just really great just to see. I know we were talking about this before the pod. I didn't know if you guys have any reactions to just some of the things that was on display during gymnastics specifically.
I think it's really cool. Right, obviously, it's a benchmark to have the most historic, diverse historic team representing the United States. I think that is a very, it's a pillar moment for us. But it's not just about having it as a benchmark, it's the performance that came along with it that to me really signified the growth of the country and the world. I think it is a great opportunity to really highlight what people are capable of when you eliminate barriers.
Right.
Yes, access. Yes, and that's key when you eliminate those barriers and have the access. So and then we saw Suni Lee.
Yeah, so Suni Lee performed, but then also Jordan Childs, right? And so there was a conversation that was happening around this bronze medal, right? And so I forgot was this the floor?
The floor exercise.
The floor exercise or whatever. And so, 3 women of color on the podium, right? You had the woman from Brazil, and then you had Simone and Jordan.
Right.
And so after the fact, I mean, this was probably 2 days before the ending of the Olympics, the Romanian coaches called foul essentially and said, hey, we need to reverse this decision because some technicality, right?
Yes, for timing.
For
timing. And so we know that...
and that was challenging. I think they were challenging her score originally because of the performance difficulty or something like that.
Right,
so,
right. Yeah. And so we saw that they were challenging it. They were taking back the bronze medal. We know there's been a contest now with the U.S. They contested the taking it back the bronze.
Right.
And so now it's just back and forth and kind of waiting. But one thing that I love to see is that regardless of the medal, it seems like the U.S. and her community is really rallying or getting behind her. Right. And rallying and saying, you're still, one of the greatest in the floor exercise. You're still, what you did, you broke barriers. But of course, when you get your bronze medal taken away, that's very hurtful.
Yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of other kind of highlights that happened during the games this year. I mean, people talked about where they stayed, and they're not being air conditioned in the facilities where people stayed and how hot it was. People talked about the Seine River in terms of, I think it rained and it,
E. coli.
Was it E. coli?
Yeah, some type of contamination.
Yikes. Because people were getting sick after performing, right? The women's on the track and field team, right? Sha'Carri and
Gabby Thomas for the 200.
Who was the woman from Jamaica, though? remember they made them walk?
Shelly-ANN Fraser.
Yes, Shelly-ANN Fraser. So there's some controversy around that in terms of like they changed the rules the night before and saying that you had to be on the team bus in order to get into the stadium. And so that kind of threw them off. Shelly-ANN actually then pulled out of that race, which was a big deal, right? Because the Jamaicans were going to, it was between her and Sha'Carri supposedly. And then Sha'Carri, I think, took silver in that race. Yeah. The boxer, right? There was a lot of conversation from a gender perspective and trying to, I think there was a woman who pulled out of that match because she got punched hard. She quit.
46 seconds into it.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to talk about that, like, in terms of what that was?
I was watching it, and there was a split in regards to people questioning the gender of the other athlete. From my understanding, she had went through the Olympic qualifications and process. Right. Yeah. So fair game in that regard. So I think that it's unfortunate the way that she was treated, right? I mean, I can only imagine how demoralizing that was at a moment where you're celebrating being the greatest in the world and having to deal with those conversations. But thus is the reality of the sports world today and where we're at.
And people kind of compared that to like Serena and how she was, considered to be manly, quote unquote, or, Brittany Griner. And a lot of conversations came up in terms of like when women are dominating in their sports, now all of a sudden there's a lot of questions that come around that as well. So,
definitely excited for 2028.
2028. So that's going to be in LA, right?
Yeah.
We going?
Olympics.
We're going to be there.
We're going to be there?
We're going to be there.
All right,
front row.
We'll be there.
WNBA game.
West
I'll
Coast,
be there.
West Coast.
Okay.
Yeah. West Coast
basketball. I mean, we didn't even talk about basketball.
Come on, Steph Curry.
Steph Curry saved the country. Gotta talk about that. Gotta talk about that.
Not Steph Curry saved the country.
He did.
Saved the country. He had basketball. Can't lose gold,
Did he not go off? What was it? How many threes did he drain? Like 5?
It was just, I don't know. Yeah, it was a lot though. Yeah, and they were deep. Yeah.
I'm curious with some DEI experts and just people that I hold in high respect. I was watching the game through the lens of kind of like the advocate ally. And when they won the gold, did anyone notice how the the USA team players, did anyone notice their faces, what they look like? Did they seem sullen to you?
So that's
they didn't sing. They didn't look happy.
So Steph was the one.
Steph was one of the only ones.
Steph was one of the only ones. And I think this is an interesting point that you bring up because there is such a dual. I can't even imagine the duality of the moment, right? Because you are representing Team USA,
your country.
Your country, and so obviously you're going hard. You see them, winning for the team, for the country, but then they're playing the national anthem, and people are just really they didn't really have much facial expression, right? Like in terms of some of the players, Steph Curry did sing a little bit, during the national anthem, but I always read the comments, even though I say that I shouldn't. And there were a lot of folks that were complaining, like, have some dignity for yourself. You should be singing, do something, like be a little bit more excited. Like you guys, I'm like, well, they just won at the global level.
I should qualify why I say this. I qualify this in the sense that let's look at 4th of July, right? Everyone celebrates 4th of July, but Black people weren't free.
Exactly.
And then you fast forward to 2020 with George Floyd, and then you look at just what it's been like now for all of these years and all the generational trauma. So I'm more on the side of I can understand why they're not happy, right? It's like I like that you said word, that duality, right? It's like they just won this athletic pursuit, and it's a big deal, but then it's like, well, we're going to go back home to a place where we're not fully accepted or fully loved.
Right.
That was the lens I was looking at it with. More in support of them, understanding and empathy as an ally than it was like, they should be so happy, because I didn't think that at all. I thought what they did matched what I expected because of what they've lived through as men. Black men in America.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I brought it up. Yeah,
and I think also too, it takes me back, John, to what you were talking about, even back in the day when we saw the Black Power fist, and then in the same picture you see the Nazi and the Nazi symbol, and it's just, again, that duality that you talked about is like still in the backdrop. There's a lot of politics at play, right? Even though you want to represent your country, which is great, but there's so much. You're going home, you're like, all right, this is the reality that I have to face. Right. So but. Yeah, so we'll be watching 2028.
We will.
Y'all know our mascot is Snoop Dogg.
Oh my gosh, we gotta talk about Snoop. Can we talk about that?
He was so funny out there. How about him swimming with Michael Phelps? How funny was that? He was hysterical.
I think that it is absolutely amazing that we live in a world now in which Snoop Dogg
I think
is like the mascot for the Olympics,
right?
And killed it, and killed it. Like did an incredible job and did a great job. But I think it shows a lot of progress from a cultural perspective. I mean, you know, it's funny. There was a moment where they were parading Snoop with the Olympics and all that, and I was thinking to myself, like, they charged him with murder.
Right.
They sure did.
They tried to throw him under the jail,
and
they tried to paint him as the face of everything that was wrong with black-on-black violence and gang violence and all of this stuff. They tried to throw him under the jail.
Yes.
So, like, I just thought it was an incredible sign of growth for our country and culture.
Absolutely.
Snoop Dogg is our mascot.
Great observation.
And Martha Stewart.
With the equestrian outfits.
That's crazy.
Yes.
And he's a global, I mean, think about that, because there were other folks from different countries who recognize Snoop. So, like, I was kind of thinking, like, who else could do that, really, on that level? Like, from a popularity standpoint and knowing who he is?
Flavor Flav tried, but...
because
he sponsored the polo.
Now, that was cool, right?
Those athletes who couldn't afford rent, that was amazing.
Right.
Tens of thousands.
I just love, too, that Snoop, even when he wasn't in official capacity, he was right there cheering.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, with the families and the fans,
He was all in.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was definitely fun.
So we're going to dive into the meat of our conversation today. And
so hot topic.
In our hot topic. I know. Kua's trying to get me
Kendra
to say.
a little rusty. You know, she wasn't here in the last
I am a little rusty.
episode, so it's okay.
It's been like 3 weeks, actually.
Has it?
It has been. But anyway.
I guess so. Okay. But anyways.
Okay.
We'll dive into our hot topic.
So go ahead, friend.
So the hot topic is coming from, it's an article from the 19th Hole magazine, right? And so it talks about Black pioneers in golf. And so the title is Alfred Tup Holmes, Pioneering Golf, Equality, and Breaking Barriers. So in a historic legal battle culminating in a landmark Supreme Court decision, golfer Alfred Tup Holmes emerged as a powerful catalyst for change. His steadfast determination dismantled racial barriers, ensuring equal access for African Americans to public golf courses, parks, beaches, and all publicly funded spaces in the state of Georgia. The other part about his story is that it transcends the fairway. It served as a beacon of courage and a testament to the enduring impact of the fight for equality. And it says that despite its historical significance in the civil rights movement, the narrative of Tup Holmes is largely lost to time and remains relatively unknown to many, even in Atlanta today. And so this hot topic is really relevant, at least for me, right? Because I was just in Atlanta. I actually golfed on the course that they named in his honor. But this was a really big deal. So his dad actually was a physician. So he came from, I think, like, some of his folks were in the civil rights movement, but around that time, Black people could not be on public, you know, this was before desegregation.
Right.
And so with his work that he did in this space, he actually was able to desegregate, you know, golf for people to have more access to it, right? And so I golfed in the course this past weekend. It was so much fun. Beautiful course. Did 18 holes, which was a lot in Atlanta heat. That Atlanta heat, it was hot, but had a really great time. And so it talked about just how the journey, and this was 1951, y'all. So when you think about the aspects of time, it wasn't that long ago. No. You know, maybe some of y'all parents were born in that, you know, in that realm. But other Black golfers were denied access to play around at Atlanta's prestigious Bobby Jones golf course. So a lot of people know the Bobby Jones golf course because it was a whites only course in the Buckhead neighborhood. And that was solely based on race. And so they used to be confined to 9-hole courses. And that was the Lincoln Park course. And so they talked about how it was like 300 yards is like the longest distance in terms of some of those holes, and it just wasn't as competitive, right? And so they went through this process. It went to the Supreme Court case, and at that time, Thurgood Marshall was still on the Supreme Court. And so it talked about just how, you know, he challenged it, and then the discrimination barred Holmes from participating in the 1939 NCAA tournament. But since then, they've now named this course in his honor, and there's a lot of folks that go and play over here, right? So we're talking about not that long ago, right? you all are representing PGA and, different ways. You're talking about diversifying the game of golf. And so I guess we can kick off our conversation. Are we doing a deep dive?
Go
okay,
ahead.
so we're doing a mix.
Yes.
We're doing a mix.
Yes.
Okay, so this is also the deep dive too, y'all, for the podcast. So yeah, what are y'all thoughts on that? What are y'all trying to do in your spaces? I know everyone has an interest in diversifying the game of golf. Ryan has already participated in a lot of our Gems on the Green initiative. So we're trying to bring more people of color to the game of golf and just introducing us to this game. Yeah.
Kick us off, Ron.
All right, so I think one of the biggest things that we have been accomplishing and hope to continue accomplishing is really bridging the gap. So rather that is in the Black community alone or if it's overall as a country, because golf is one of those sports where you're going to spend 4 hours with someone.
Yeah.
And we want to use that time to benefit everybody, right? So some of these kids, for example, I'll use my life. Being on the golf course, I met a lot of amazing people, a lot of business owners where I was able to learn a lot of mentorship as well. Just about the economy, about life. Like, you can make best friends. There's a lot of business meetings that happen on the course. So just getting more people into that setting. Just getting more people into that setting. Getting people the opportunity to just meet and network, because as we talked about as well, networking is so powerful. A lot of great networking events happen on the golf course or through the sport of golf.
Absolutely.
And we talk about the network gap, and that's something that comes out of the DEI space as well, where you can predict someone's success based on their zip code, right? 100%. And so when you're talking about diversifying these spaces and how much business is being done on the course, these are the things that we're trying to challenge for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, just,
Steve, we got to hear you.
You are the average of the people around you, right?
Right,
so,
right.
I think we all agree golf has given us so much, so we want to share that with everyone and break down any barriers that people may have to enjoy the game. Whether it's just professional growth or just personal growth, the game's just amazing. So second that.
Yeah.
I was introduced to the game of golf by older Black mentor of mine in banking and finance, who at the time was the senior vice president of college relations for PNC Bank, and he really ran the internship opportunities and executive management training. And he was adamant that as a man of color, I learned how to play golf and operating within that industry. So what I took on as kind of like, I felt like a professional responsibility turned into a personal passion. And I now, as I have progressed through my career, feel the responsibility and also the burden to do the same that was done to me, open a door and provide opportunity to expose people to the game of golf.
I mean, let's step back and just talk about golf, right? It's so beloved because it is a parallel to life, right? So there's fair breaks, there's unlucky things that happen, there's things you cannot control. A lot of times it's you versus you, right? It's you versus you. And so if we can accomplish the conquering of ourselves to get that ball in the hole sooner than others or that you've done in the past, it teaches you patience and so many different things. And Kua, you talked about Atlanta and golf down there, and I'd like to shout out Eastside Golf as much as I want to be shouting out. I'm just a golfer here in Buffalo. Collab coming soon. Olajuwon and Earl. I hope you're listening. You're gonna be hearing Ron Langhorne's name very soon if you haven't already. But they're down in Atlanta and Detroit, and they grew up playing, of course, Olajuwon specifically. Both of them are professional golfers. Earl's a member of the PGA, Earl Cooper, and I know Kendra, you know the family, and they're great people. And 1961 was the year that at the time the PGA Tour and PGA of America were combined still, and that's when they lifted the Caucasian only clause. So 10 years after 1951, Kua, to your point, was when professional golfers were then allowed. So look at Dr. Charlie Sifford, look at Lee Elder. How about Althea Gibson, the first female woman of color to break on the scene after winning Grand Slam titles in professional tennis. I mean, how bad ASS is that? So I just think to tie it all together, I mean, we're all here as agents of change and connectivity and community here because we have this game that we all love so much that we get to spend, to Ron's point. I mean, if you're in a slow scramble, it's 6 hours, right? So you're 6 hours, which is fine.
Torture.
Unless you're with great people, Ron. I'd be in a 6-hour scramble with all 6 of us any day of the week. And twice on Sundays. Yeah. So I just think, to wrap it all together, I mean, we're here because this is a game where you see that light bulb in that young person, especially if it's a young person of color. You see them, they've never swung a golf club before, but they're athletic and they hit that ball for the first time and it goes straight and high in the air and you just see that. I mean, that's worth, that's priceless. That's priceless.
Yeah.
So really, this is, now you get me going here.
Yeah.
I ranted a little there.
And you made a good point.
Bring it on.
That's
Let's
something
go.
I experience a lot. So a lot of what I do, I go to different community centers and schools introduced to sport. So we actually just had that where we had a group. It was at the Hennepin Center on the east side of Buffalo. And some of these kids, like first day, who's ever heard of golf before? Not one hand was up. So now it's like, all right, so how are we going to introduce this and then make it fun? So part of one of the things I did was I like to talk trash, right? So when it comes to these kids, I will get in the front of the gym, and we're using plastic clubs and tennis balls, so there wasn't really much of a threat to me. But in the process of me just talking trash and getting riled up, and they're just hitting and unleashing, they started to have fun. So that's day 1. So then we took that to day 2 and started to break down the actual game and saying, okay, well, if you actually can do this shot or hit this shot. And like you said, when you see some of these students and their face brightens up after that shot because they never saw that, they didn't think about that as it happened. Like, words really can't describe. And then we just recently leveled that up, taking some kids from the Seneca Babcock Community Center and bringing them to Delaware Park for a golf clinic with the first tee. And it was a mixture of these Seneca Babcock kids with actual first tee kids. And at first, me and the other coaches were nervous because it wasn't planned to be that way. So you have some kids with their clubs ready to play, and then some kids who's never heard about the sport. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to lead this class? And the best thing that I saw was the friendships they made at the end. Like they're grabbing each other, wrestling a little bit. They're making jokes, and you would see like what started at certain clicks all of a sudden disintegrate. And that was my major goal because when I'm coaching at, let's say, Harvest Hill and Orchard Park, or if I'm coaching at Glen Oak, like some of those students have a completely different life than some of the kids back in the east side and west side of Buffalo. And my goal was like, all right, well, if they come together while they're still young, they're going to realize, okay, different circumstances, we're all the same on the inside. And seeing that come to fruition this year was amazing. Like the last thing I'll say is we brought, for PGA Junior League, Delaware Park Buffalo had his first ever PGA Junior League team this year.
Thanks to you, Ron. Thanks to you. Shout out.
Praise be to the Most High. But when we had that example, and some of these kids came to Delaware Park who's not used to playing a course that quote unquote low of a level, and saying like, okay, well, this is a course I grew up in. This was the best for a lot of us until we get to a certain stage. And then for them to realize even that aspect and become more appreciative of things they have and vice versa. A lot of my students out in these different suburbs or whatever, they're going to have to go through a very different struggle. And when I first started coaching, don't think like, oh, you got silver spoon, blah, 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 you're good. But then when you really listen to them as well, like when you bridge those gaps, people don't realize how powerful that is. And we're seeing that, like we brought back with the Olympics. We're seeing everybody's hanging out from all over. We're all humans. We're just golfers.
We're just golfers. I love that.
Man, dude,
I love
you're
that.
a quote machine, man.
Yes.
Quote machine.
I saw that in a fortune cookie.
Good memory, though.
And I think also, too, what we were just talking about is bridging those gaps, like you said, and providing access. But we know that early on, you can have things like First Tee and you can have PAL, but we know that golf ultimately is expensive, right? It is an expensive sport. And so as we see people get older, sometimes they don't do it as much or they don't have the same access because the price point, right? And so, John, if you could just talk about even your relationship, obviously, with PGA and how it circles back to PGA Reach and PGA Hope as well. And how are you kind of breaking down those barriers, but also giving people opportunity to continue the game that they love, that they probably learned early on as well?
Love it. Yeah. So 60-second overview, PGA Reach West New York Foundation. It's a 501c3 right nonprofit. That is the umbrella. That's the hat I'm wearing here. It's a fresh hat, by the way. It's brand new off the press. Repping Branded Bill's a new partner of ours. But that is the umbrella. Inside of it sits 3 pillars. So the 3 pillars are PGA Hope, helping our patriots everywhere for military vets. Stevie Coulton here has got one of his PGA Hope camo hats on. You've got Junior League for our junior golfers, our youth. So it's our youth component. We also have a junior tour, which I can get to in a little bit. And then last but not least is PGA Works, which is our DEI component. And that's at a national level. PGA Works is a 1-year contract for people from underserved or typically historically not in golf golf or in sports have opportunities to then get into golf and hopefully have that be a springboard to golf or another industry, or if it's sports, whatever it may be. So just to clarify, just to share that, I think it's a little confusing. A lot of brand names, a lot of logos. We hear that often, and we hear you. Now what PGA REACH is doing as a whole here in Western New York, for me, I've been involved with this organization now for about 6 years. And I'm proud to say that when the trustee group started, it was 4 white men. I should say, I'm proud to say that how we've changed it. It was 4 white men, and that was just a start. They were friends of the foundation. They knew that these individuals, myself included, a few of us were allies and advocates, and we would spread our wings and start bringing in people to make our board look like what America looks like. I'm proud to say now we are the most diverse board of trustees in the country. We have 24 trustees, 14 of whom are people who have diverse backgrounds. So more than half of our board of trustees with the foundation are from diverse backgrounds. And we've been told by National we are the most diverse. So the way I look at it is we built the foundation of let's bring the all-star team together. This room right here only shows a few of the individuals of who we've got on our team. Now I look at those individuals as extensions of our foundation who can be our ears and eyes in the community, looking for opportunities, partnerships. Royce, we're going to talk a little bit here in a second. Him and his partner, Steph, they are doing a really cool August 21st event that's going to be a fundraiser event that's DEI themed intentionally. So I think I lost track of the question, but really our mission, I mean, for me, I'm most focused on the DEI side because the other programs are so well built. So then it becomes, what do we do at a grassroots level where PGA Works is doing great work at the national level? We've had 8 fellows now just in the last probably 5 years. Right now we've got Abby Clute. Shout out to Abby if you're watching this. She's an amazing young woman doing great work from us. She came from Syracuse Newhouse PR school, and she's one of those individuals. She's an African-American young woman who's coming in and learning the ropes of golf, of industry, and she's spreading her wings and doing great things. Her aspiration actually is to work for the Olympics or Special Olympics. So I say all that to say we are all in this together, working towards a common goal of how do we put clubs again in the hands of people who've historically not had that. And a guy like Ron, someone like Steve representing OnCore, longtime partner of the section and the foundation with what they do to promote diversity. I'd love to hear more from Steve with what he's doing, even with Ron. I mean, this room is so interconnected. So totally ranting. I hope I answered that somewhat.
Yeah, no, you did.
Can we just take a moment and just acknowledge that, like, you know, I'm always pro Buffalo. I love the Buffalo stats. And a lot of times what you get in Buffalo is like one of the racially most segregated communities in the country. Top 5 from the research that I've seen in the last 20 years. And it's Western New York's Board of Trustees that is the most diverse.
Yes.
The Board of Trustees in golf for Western New York is the most diverse in the country. I think is a huge feather in our hat. And reflective of like the direction we're going in.
And the section is overseen by the Tori.
You know,
who is a woman. Who is a woman in this industry as well.
One of 7 in the country, by the way. So there's 41 sections. Think of them as territories. Victoria Shiro is one of 7 other executive directors. Now, just a quick, as I talked enough here, but just a quick aside, before I got here full time in my role with the section, the foundation, it was actually all female. So it was the only all female team in the country here in Western New York. And then I joined, and the joke is I ruined it. So then they would they'd tell me to put on heels or a wig. And you know, we had fun, but no, but I mean, Victoria's done an amazing job, and she is the executive director of both the section and the foundation. So she is the tip of the spear. She leads by example, and she's all in on making sure that we are doing what we can to continue diversifying what we do as a board, who we are as a board, but then the programming we're doing in the community as well. So shout out to Tori.
Absolutely. And it's not, I mean, we know that there's a lot of great work that's happening, right? And so I guess my question is, how do we measure, like you said, John, a lot of things is from the grassroots level. There's events that we'll talk about that's happening as well. We have partnerships and sponsorships. But how do we measure impact and success? And what does that look like for our communities?
Right. So you have to look at it pillar by pillar. So I mentioned PGA Hope, I mentioned PGA Works, I mentioned PGA Junior League. So let's start with youth. So in youth, the goal there is how do we get young people playing golf, right? A lot of times it's football, it's soccer, it's hockey. How do we get more clubs? And the game is getting hotter now, right? COVID kind of helped accelerate that. For us right now, the way we measure it is how do we continue to bring more young people to the course, and then especially diversifying those young people, which I'd love to hear more from Ron and Royce on that, because we just had a call last week with PGA Junior League at the national level. We got some cool, exciting news that we can share. But for us right now, it's how do we get more young people, and then looking at the demographics of those as well. And we're seeing a continued diversifying of who's playing in our junior programming. We still have work to do though, and we'll be the first to admit that. PGA Hope. And by the way, PGA Hope is a free program to our military veterans. We measure that through veterans who come through the program and graduate. So to graduate, you have to have a certain amount of classes that you attend, like through the clinics. Stories that you hear, like let's talk about that for a second. I just heard this the other day. There was an individual who had not left his house in 6 months. And PGA Hope was something that catalyzed him and helped him get out of the house and connect with people, because he's just, some of the things he's been through his deployments, wasn't able to leave the home, but he loved golf before he went into the war. And just stories like that, where it's like, I haven't been out of my house in 6 months, and this is the 3rd session I've been in a row, and I can't believe this. So I think that's one way we measure it. And then on the diversity side, for right now, it's really the fellowship program, and the individuals that come in that make an impact. Just they're as valuable or more valuable in some cases in terms of the work they're doing. With like Abby, she is 3 months in, and you would think she's been here for more than 3 years. I mean, just an immediate impact player. So, and then I think as we go forward to round this out with DEI, it's how do we get more young people of color from racial and ethnic backgrounds playing this game? Clubs, we talk about the Jim Horn Golf Foundation. We talk about what Ron's doing. We talk about what OnCore's doing. We talk about some of the events we're doing. I think these are all going to be rolling in the same direction of getting more young people of color playing this game that we all love. So.
Absolutely.
But we got a lot of work to do still, I think, on the measurement side. I think there's some things we can do to fine tune and continue increasing impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're going to see a major change in the community, because now in our country, and you brought up before, was it like 1951, I think was the year? So when you look at it in that sense, we have now a lot of first generation or second generation college graduates, and realizing how important that is, because through golf and meeting certain people with wealth, you realize how powerful generational wealth is. So just having these connections, if your family owns a business and you're growing up, you already have a job, it's never going to be a problem. So you have the ability and the funding to pursue your dreams, to build. You have backing, whereas for a lot of us now, we're just now starting to see that. Being here at Beverly Grad, the Exchange, I've met a lot of Black success that I didn't see in Buffalo before, and just seeing that and the support you guys are giving me, but more so mentorship from the likes of like Lindsay Taylor, from my big bro Jamil Cruz, from Derek. Like there's a lot of that I would say growing up, because I didn't see it, a lot of the mistakes I made as a young man was because what I saw was for a successful Black man was what I went for. And what that wasn't positive. And now we have a great team. And once again, we got to give John his roses for creating this board, but we got to realize how powerful that is. We have a bunch of like-minded people for the same goal. We have a lot of resources now. Like my guy, Steve, he hates getting his flowers. I got to give him his, because I've known him for years. And Steve is a real good guy. When I was doing stuff, volunteering with Jim Horn, just offering assistance, that like resources was not an issue. Even now, we were just talking about using the simulator. So we're giving some of these kids from Buffalo who wouldn't have access to these courses the ability to learn, to see how far they hit these clubs, to be able to experience golf year round now. So like shout out to OnCore as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Steve, we want to
Steve,
yeah, Steve, we definitely want to hear
about,
from
well said, Ron.
how do you measure it? And there's the National Golf Foundation, women, juniors, diversity. Those are the fastest growing populations. So you can look at the statistics. But I also think we all watch golf. So people want to see more people of color on the PGA Tour. And Ron mentioned college. There's support, Steph Curry, college programs. We're involved with the APGA Tour players, the Black Golf Tour. So those, you're going to see those rising stars, and people ultimately want to see them on TV and say, all right, we had Tiger Woods, who's next? Right. We want to see more representation at that highest level. And I think it's coming. And kudos to John and everyone here, because you need people to bring everyone together. We're all doing our own things in our own silos, but ultimately it takes a village, I think, to grow the game and have it be representative.
I know I've talked a lot, but to your point, Steve, you all give me love. But honestly, when we picked up Kendra joining as a trustee, Royce Woods, Steve Coulton, and a few others like a Holly Huber and a couple others, that's
Mercedes.
Mercedes came in. You were part of like that first wave though, right? So Kendra, Royce, Steve, Holly Huber, who's an incredible ambassador for DEI and golf. Shout out to Holly there, but it sells itself, right? When I'm out there singing the praises of what we're doing at the foundation, I say Kendra Brand, Royce Wood, Steve Coulton, Holly Huber, and others. people are like, dang, what's going on there? All those people are involved. Well, I want to get involved too. And then it starts to snowball, right? So I appreciate the love. I'll give the love right back, because without y'all taking that leap to get involved with what we're doing, I wouldn't have been able to bring this all-star team together. So Rose is right back to you guys. And Steve too. I mean, I can't say enough about what Steve's done, the diversity work that they do, his willingness to give and serve and support. And Ron is one of probably thousands of people that Steve's connected with, whether it was through LinkedIn or through his podcast or through, in the streets, whatever it might be, at different events, traveling the country for OnCore. I mean, Steve's really, before I knew what allyship was, Steve was allyship. He showed me what allyship is. So shout out to you, Steve, because the work you're doing, continue to do all the special edition golf balls you do for the causes you guys work with. They literally do like custom logo golf balls where they then give portions back to different foundations that there's too many to even name here. So it's a circle of love and gratitude in this building.
And watch it, so we go back.
Yes,
we go back,
yes.
right? So when y'all were actually just starting, and coming out of the Innovation Center, right? So I used to work in that same building. So watching the growth and trajectory for where you and Brett started to where you are now has been absolutely amazing. And actually, I have a question just to pose the group as well, right? And so we talk about representation and how much that means and how that matters, right? And so Ron, you saying like, hey, as a little Black boy growing up, this was the representation that I saw, and this is kind of what you emulated in that standpoint. That begs, a question I think that we also need to talk about in terms of the inclusion component on these golf courses. Right. And so one of the things that I did not read in the article for the Tup Homes golf course, and just how he desegregated public golf courses, was that once that happened, there were purchases of public courses and then they made them private, right? And so there was a whole movement behind it, like, okay, now we got to diversify, we got to see other people that don't look like us come into this space. And so now we're going to, purchase these and make them private so that now you can't come. It's private. You don't have a choice in that. I know the types of golf courses that I've been on, most of them have been public, to be honest. I don't know how many private golf courses we've been on, really. And so I think about the experience of what that is like as well, as a woman of color, as a Black woman, to go on these courses and some of the eyes like, who is she?
I love it.
And I think
I love it.
I think there's some dynamic to talk about like that, right? Where it's just like, who are you? Oh, you know what I mean?
We've gotten that even on some of the
public courses. Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
It's almost like, oh, you're one of the good ones, right? Like it's always this respectability politics that's at play. Or even just being a woman, oh, you have your own golf clubs, those type of things. And so we still get that. We, even locally here. And so we're just happy to be out. And it's almost like if you have a connection to someone and you mention a name, that's when people get more comfortable. But it's still this respectability politics that are at play on the golf course when we tend to go.
So I guess that poses that question too, is right, like representation matters, but that inclusion and belonging piece also matter, right? And especially for folks, I've navigated a career, I've been at executive level, I've, C-suite, like I know what it feels like to be one of a few in many of these places and spaces. And so I can navigate through those. I see some of the faces, I'm like, all right, you can, have that face. It's not going to stop me from being in a space. But for a lot of folks, it does, because you're not used to that. And so if you're coming from an environment where you're not accustomed to being one of the only, what does that look like in this space? And, how do you approach that? How do you make that more inclusive?
Can I just throw something out there, Kua, to your point there? It's wild. Did anyone here see the July 1st CBS Good Morning news with Jerika Duncan?
Yes.
Yes. Did I send that to you, or you saw it on your own?
I saw it live.
So Eastside Golf, right? We go back to Eastside. Royce has got the hat. I got the polo, the bag on the ground here. You're talking about a company that's partnered with Jordan.
Yes.
Right? And they were all people of color. Jerika Duncan, I don't know how many people don't know who she is. She's amazing.
Shout out. She used to be here locally.
Come on.
Yeah, she was Channel 7 News anchor.
Wow. I knew I recognized her. I should know that. You wouldn't believe it, though, for those who did not see it. Royce, anyone else here see it besides Kendra?
And we'll plug it so we can watch that during YouTube.
Back in Atlanta, I decided to get a quick lesson.
Aren't you like one of the best teachers in the country?
Well, we're going to see. All right, so first things first is it starts with your stance.
Cooper showed patience as I kept swinging and missing the ball.
Oh my God. It's natural for me to want to watch the ball.
Now, I'm going to get out the way. And you just do
and
that.
After several tries,
stick the landing.
That's
how did
me.
that feel?
That's me right there. But that excitement on the green was soon marred by disappointment. You see, this story about a brand that aims to attract more people to golf was thrown off course when a white man asked me, the producer and crew, who are all black, if we were there to shoot a music video.
Something you use.
Yeah, y'all.
Wow.
CBS News. Yes, sir.
I froze. Ajanaku calmly told the man it was for the news. We laughed it off and moved on. They say golf has taught them how to handle uncomfortable moments by staying focused and maintaining the perfect drive to win the long game.
About to swing a few?
These entrepreneurs are striving to help more people see the beauty in golf, a sport that is finally for everyone.
And it's just like, really?
And they were like,
regular.
oh, we're used to it. We just kept moving, and Jerika froze.
Correct.
It didn't even faze them, but this is the reality.
Right.
This is
I
what
just had to throw that out. So I just want to throw that as an anecdote, but I would love to hear from more like Royce, Ron, on what you see on that in that
I
world.
don't know. You know, unfortunately, for a long time, that has been the culture of golf.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can understand why people may shy away from that. You know, I've always had the personality to run towards it and to try to break that glass ceiling. But to our earlier point about like the Olympics and the gymnastic team, you know, I'm incredibly proud of the accomplishment that Johnny and Tori have built in regards to making us the most diverse board, trustee board in the country. But it's also about performance too in that regard. So I think we are just getting assembled, and I'm excited to see what we do in regards to breaking down barriers, providing opportunities within a comfortable space for people who would otherwise felt locked out of the game to experience the game and become more comfortable with a golf club in their hand, in a country club, on a course, in that environment, operating, like really trying to utilize the board of trustees to open those doors and expose. But I think, you know, not uncommon to other areas of our country that we have diversified over the last, you know, lifetime. It's probably going to take a lifetime, you know, a generation or so to build those, to bake out those biases. But they're naturally going to be there, like they're going to be in a lot of other environments and communities.
Tiger Woods, remember when he won one of the Masters, and one of the comments from someone that he beat was, well, we're going to have watermelon and fried chicken now, you know, after the tournament. So these are things that are not uncommon, right? And even at that highest level, but I say it to say, right, these are things that we need to consider. So we're talking about diversifying this game, going through this representation component, but how we're going to make sure that, okay, now that we get folks ready and prepared to go out there, that they do feel comfortable to then, you know, continue to play. So,
It's just reps, right, Ron? It's just reps, right? The more you get out there, the more you see others that look like you, come from where you come from, that are playing golf. There's that emboldening of that energy, right? So you got Ron out on the course with the work that he's doing. He's inspiring the next generation. He's planting those seeds. It's all about lived experience, right? Glenn Jackson, you know, M&T Bank's chief diversity officer, is a good friend. We've talked at length about the lived experience. And Ron, you said it so well earlier. You said we're all what was it? It was same inside, different exteriors, right? And so it's like when you can break those barriers and connect, you know, people from different walks of life, and they can see, you know, we live the same life. We all have the same fears, dreams. You know, we all share these inner workings that are shared amongst the human experience. That's where I think life gets really cool, right? Where it's like, you know, we can all, I hit my ball 300, you hit yours 300, we're, you know, made par, we're all walking in this together. So, it's just, we have a lot of work to do, right?
It's funny about your question, because like in my experience with golf, maybe you guys had different experiences, but I've always, at certain courses in certain environments, have felt that tension. Like you're an outsider. Like, what are you doing here? And then I rip a drive on the first tee. And they're like, what? They're like, okay, this whole dog legs, right? Okay. You know, don't want to be short of very true. It kind of it does. So that is what I really like. That is why I really gravitated more to the game, and you know, really fell in love with it, because it just has a way of eliminating generational barriers, racial barriers, gender barriers, social economic barriers. You know, everyone's just trying to hit the ball straight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the best part. So I've felt that tension, and it's been awesome to immediately alleviate it by hitting a good shot and be like, I know what I'm doing out here, bro. Like,
I think that happened to us at Elm. Was it Elma?
Meadows?
Yeah. The guy pulled up and he looked and he was like, "Oh, so how are you?" Like, it just broke down.
Yeah, we got this.
But it made me laugh. That makes me think about Roger Steele, which a lot of folks know too, right?
Yeah.
Like, who's out there and golfing, and he talks about as a black man being athletic build, and out there, people automatically think that he's someone famous. So they're like, "Oh, who are you? You can play a little bit." Like, okay, he's like, "I hate to disappoint you. Like, I'm not."
He made a joke on Twitter.
Right?
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Right, you sent that to me, I think. You sent me that tweet.
Yeah.
So
I also say one other part to bridging the gap, an experience I went through. John knows I was at a certain course, and this gentleman thought he was funny and made a loud public joke about me ordering a grape Gatorade. In his words, he ordered it for me, and he thought it was funny. He's nudging his guys on the elbow, and luckily at this place, being well known now, a lot of people took offense to that, and it was handled. There's even a state trooper there.
Banned for life.
Banned for life from the course. They filed him to his car to get his license plate. They talked to his employer, his business. Like, he was. But it was the conversation I had with the head pro afterwards, where not only he came up and apologized, sorry he had to go through all this, but he's like, I had no idea the world was still like this. So if you're certain people in a certain group and you don't really step out of that group, everything could be peaceful in your world, but until you meet someone from a different group or a different setting, a different walk of life, and realize, like, no, it's still like this. Even in some of the conversations we have, because of us having this board, because of the viewership we're going to have from different areas of diverse standards, some of our experiences, like, oh, I didn't think it was going to be like this, and now we know. I think that's why one of the biggest things that we can do is really share our experiences, not just for us, because we're all adults. At the end of the day, we're adults. But there's kids who may go through the same situation. Because of them hearing our story, hearing our testimony, they're gonna know what to do and what not to do. And like what Royce said, I love is, we're like trailblazers a lot of times. So it's like, if we don't step into that room, who will? And then when will that finally happen? So just by us stepping in, by them seeing us hit a drive, by them seeing us hold ourselves to a higher standard. Like, we're all just like you, but we're all just golfers.
I just want to throw out there, though, for those that are listening and watching, in terms of like ripping the drive, on the other side of that, if you have the very basics, which guys like Ron and some of the other programming that's out there, there's programs out there, there's coaches, look up a PGA coach, they can help you with your technical, with your etiquette. But if you can get the basics down pat, there's a phrase that is often uttered: I'd rather play with someone who's cool and isn't great than an a-hole who's really good, right? So it's like, I think for those who hear Royce and Ron, who are both very good golfers, Steve's a great golfer himself, Kua and Kendra, you're doing your thing, y'all are athletes, you're going to get there. I just think that you don't have to hit it 300 down the middle, or even 200 or 150 down the middle. You just have to have the very basics, which takes access still, right? When I was talking to Derek, who runs Beverly Gray here, doing an amazing job, DP.
The etiquette, there's a lot to learn.
Oh, I know what it was.
There's a lot to learn in golf.
Take it, Steve.
Thanks, Ron, for taking the time with our youth and teaching them the game, teaching them etiquette, pace of play. So when they get out onto the course, it's a more welcoming environment. Although it should be that way anyway. But you're reducing the barriers by giving them that knowledge.
And just Steve, you helped me, right? So it's like, when you think about someone like me who's been playing since age 3, Ron, you've been playing for a while. Steve, you've been playing for a while. I know, Royce, you're newer to the game, but he's such an athlete. The kid's already dialed in. Like, it's second nature. It's second nature. So I literally don't even think about the things I do, because it's 10,000 hours, right? Like Malcolm Gladwell says. So you just have to get those reps, but just get the basics down and don't worry, right? No one wants to play in a scramble with someone who's breaking clubs, and then you ask them the question, okay, cool. So, so Mike, tell me more. Like, how often do you practice? Oh, I practice like once a year. How often do you play? I play in this charity tournament here and over there. Okay, how old are your clubs? They're 20 years old. And so you're expecting to play the hardest game in the world by having like no reps, no practice, not the right gear. So if you can get the very basics down and just have a good time, connect with people, build those relationships. That's all I wanted to kind of say was, we hear about the ripping of the drives, and it is an equalizer, but at the same time, for those that are like, well, I can't hit that drive by far. So then it's like, well, then learn the basics, hit YouTube so that you can feel more comfortable out there and show up to those charity tournaments and like you can belong kind of thing. That's all I want to share.
Right. And I think,
thanks, Steve.
You know, and as we wrap up, I'll also go around and have you all talk about different initiatives that you're involved in and things that are coming up. But for us, when we're talking about inclusion, this is why we started Gyms on the Green. We really wanted people to be comfortable with, number one, just being out there and just having a club in their hands, seeing people that look like them and just having fun, right? And so one of our first events was with Ron at the Dome, and we had a great time, right? Even though there was a range of experiences, everyone just came together and had fun. So we really appreciate you for really diving in with us on Gyms on the Green. And then we just started having fun. And so we really just want people just to come out, have fun, and just really, you know, obviously perfect the game, but it's really just about access as well. And I know even a couple of weeks ago, I joined PAL at Delaware Park, and I am not a great golfer, but just to be out there and having kids see me, the kids literally lit up and were like, oh my God, like, where did you come from, right? And it's just like, this is what they need to see. And that was my first experience with golf when I was 9 years old doing PAL, and now seeing that come full circle. And so I have to give back back to the organization. And so, but Ron is trying to tap me in to do some more stuff with the girls.
It's already done. Kendra is officially drafted as a golf coach. We are taking your choice out of this. I signed a contract for her.
Ron basically cornered me on Sunday and was like, you're doing this. But no, I really appreciate it, because that's what it's about. It's about community, and it's not about us. It's about the you know, the next generation and really bringing that forward. So really appreciate that. So as we wrap up, we'll just go around and talk about different initiatives that you guys have, things that are coming up, and then how we as a community can support.
And if you want to shout out, you know, any way for folks to find you, and you know, connect with you online.
All right. So the big initiative, if I may, for the three of us. So myself, Royce, John, Mike Smith, and
PGA,
Stephanie, I believe. So
Rivera.
what we're doing, I'm the assistant coach for the PGA Junior League team at Glen Oak. I work underneath Rob Krajewski. Shout out to him. He's a great mentor. But we got on a phone call and basically said, how can we help golfers get to the next level from our community, right? So we got 4 spots. 2 of them were actually from the POW that you were at, 2 of them from POW, and then 2 of them were 2 students from the Jim Horn Golf Foundation that's going to be able to be on the team in September. So that's another level step like you haven't seen before, because as much as I love the first tee, which I do, the PGA Junior League and certain golf levels through that is here. But for what we want to do for these kids, there's so much scholarship money available. There's just so many opportunities. We have to have them play at the highest level like everybody else. So that was, I think, the next biggest step, and it's seeing it come to fruition. And then obviously shout out to my guy Steve, shout out to OnCore Golf, letting us get the clinic, even for you as well, at OnCore facility. So then giving us a place, a simulator, so we can work during the winter time, because a lot of the better students, they're practicing year round at a certain level. They might go to Florida to play just because they can, just to stay. So the fact that we have these things happening is literally a dream come true. And I still pinch myself daily.
Ryan, you got something coming up in August too.
Oh yes. So
end of August. We're in August. The end of August.
August 31st, baby.
Yes.
So August 30th, I have my player ability test, which is basically me pursuing a certification with the PGA and really taking it to the next level. And then it'll allow me to also, hopefully, God be willing, start a team at Grover that we talked about, to start another PGA Junior League team where it'll be somewhere close enough to Buffalo, be accessible right by the University train station, and bringing this team to be able to travel and compete with other teams.
That's amazing.
Yes, it's a big day.
Ron, you got a caddy for that yet?
Hopefully I'm looking at them.
I was just going to say, I waited till today to tell you, let's do it. We're doing it. So we got a nice 36 holes. 36 holes. It's gonna. I had to take mine last year, and thanks to this man here, I was able to pass Steve Coulton. We keep doing all these shout outs, but for those who don't know what the playing ability test is, it's 36 holes of golf in one day. It's golf's longest day, high pressure. You know the number you have to shoot. You got other golfers vying for spots, and so Ron and I, let's get out there and let's get after it and let's get that done.
Yes, sir.
Good luck,
excited.
The next generation depends on it, brother.
Ron, how do the folks find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm just a golfer. The website is coming soon, but it's not up just yet because I want to get everything else in order first. But if you have Instagram or Facebook, I'm just a golfer.
And look at the merch,
Look at the
y'all.
merch.
Look at the merch.
We got
Look at
Brandy
that.
Brandy
The merch.
style over here as well.
Show that
You
off.
can see it. I'm just a
Matching
golfer.
shirts
I
there.
love it. I love it.
Let's go.
So we're coming off OnCore, a big weekend. We just hosted a Fairway Frenzy event. So it's kind of a neat event where people, all walks of life, all ages, played in a massive scramble.
Oh.
Yo! Playing encores all day, every day. Let's go.
So that was cool. We'll be doing more of those. We're a golf ball technology company, so definitely check out our golf balls and try them out, mostly online, OnCoreGolf.com. But we do locally, we work with a ton of pro shops. Talked a lot about Delaware Park today. We're in there, along with a bunch of other clubs. So yeah, we just collaborated with Hartman's on a bourbon. So proceeds from that go to the Western New York PGA.
PGA Reach, yeah.
But yeah, just check out OnCoreGolf.com if you need golf balls. Appreciate
They're
it.
really good golf balls,
Yeah,
by the way.
the
They're
Vero
really
X
good golf
ones,
yes.
the Vero X ones and the Vero X twos. I won a tournament at Ironwood with those. I remember the day I met you. He gave me a sleeve, and I went to Ironwood and won a tournament with those, and haven't looked back.
Nice.
So I definitely
when that
personally
PAT,
suggest those.
right? We're gonna get you through the
Oh,
PAT.
please, yeah, I gotta grab some.
Get you stocked up. Let's
Yes,
go.
sir.
So Ron had mentioned it. You know, my son plays PGA Junior League, and I set out really on a mission a couple months ago to add more diversity to his team and teammates, and through partnership with Ron and John, was able to secure 4 scholarships for 4 kids of color that are going to participate in the upcoming fall PGA Junior League. So really excited about that. And then more importantly, me and my partner Stephanie Rivera, who is a co-trustee on me for PGA Reach, we are throwing a fundraiser August 21st. It is free. It is open to the public. It is at the clubhouse at the base of Seneca 1. And we are doing it obviously to try to raise resources to continue to make the game accessible to all. But we did not want a cost barrier for those to participate, because we are trying to get as many people as possible, not just to raise the money, but also to share the good news about the progress that is happening in Buffalo, how Buffalo is leading the country in regards to diversifying the game and the efforts that Johnny and Tori are really spearheading. So come one, call all, open events, August 21st, Wednesday night, 5 to 8 at the clubhouse at the base of Seneca 1. Free food, free drinks. There's going to be a lot of giveaways, thanks to OnCore Golf and a couple other sponsors. But really, more than anything else, trying to raise resources and awareness that like good things are happening in Buffalo associated with the game of golf.
How do people find that?
So it is all over my LinkedIn site. I'm Royce Woods at LinkedIn. Search me on LinkedIn. It's the best way to get in contact with me.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just a shout out to Royce. That 821 event is the first of its kind, in our 4 or 5 year history of having trustees. And hopefully I'm not forgetting in a scenario in which this happened, but I don't think we've had trustees come to us and say, hey, we want to do this and we're going to do these things and put this time, effort, money, resources, planning like Royce and Steph have done. So major shout out to my guy R-Dub here and his partner Steph Rivera, by the way, is the founder of Half Luna Empanadas, and I would tell you that they are the best empanadas that I've ever had. So at very least, come out, have some empanadas, hit some shots in the Sims, come learn more about PGA Reach and the work we're doing. We have a signed OnCore Golf Josh Allen hat, thanks to Mr. Steve Coulton. We've got a bottle of Hartman's, custom Hartman's bourbon from Hartman's Distilling Co. That Steve had just mentioned. We've got gear from the the Buffalo Sabres, signed autograph stuff. We have a T-square putter. It's a $500 putter. So I could go on, and I'll just make one more mention. Shout out to Lisa Latrovato, fellow trustee. She was able to find us some really cool vintage Masters chairs from like the 70s, like totally wild vintage. So come buy some raffle tickets, support if you can. We would really appreciate it, and we're gonna have a great time in the process of doing so. I think just to plug a couple other things, let me think here. So 821's a big one. We've got Teed Up for the Troops. That's in support of PGA Hope through our great friends Sean Glagowski and Tom Waring from Note Advisors are down in the South Towns. They've been doing amazing work, raising hundreds, if not millions of dollars for different veteran organizations, of which PGA Hope Western New York is a beneficiary of. So that's September 9th at Wanaka. It is one of the most incredible days you could ever imagine. And then I would say, let's think what else we've got. October 21st, the first of its kind. It's called the Play Yellow Birdie Bash. And so that's in partnership with Golisano Children's Hospital. That's happening at Monroe Golf Club, and that's to raise money for both PGA Reach and for Golisano Children's in Rochester. So probably forgetting some stuff. We've got a busy end of the season here, but I just can't say enough about being in this room right now. I mean, you talk about a dream come true. I mean, this is next level stuff. My passion for diversity, not to make this about me, it comes from my dad. He was a professor at Attica prison for 14 years and grew up on the east side of Buffalo over on Delavan there. And just as a man of all people, my mom as well, Niagara Falls native. And to see this come true is just, it's like, I can almost cry. So shout out to you all and Kua and Kendra for putting this together. Brandy and Jamil. I mean, I've never seen a studio as cool as this. This is truly stunning. I've probably 10 times said it to Jamil and Brandon. They're probably like, all right, we're good. You said it enough, but I just can't say enough. This place is beautiful. Black Gems dive in. Y'all are killing it. So we're really grateful for the spotlight and the platform.
Definitely appreciate you. And where can we find you?
LinkedIn, only one place.
Yes.
I don't do anything
I was
else.
like, if you want all things,
LinkedIn, please.
The connector
come find
over
me.
here.
Come find me on the golf course, trying to get my handicap down there, my index down. But August 30th, we're going to go out there and we're going to murk it. So let's go.
Good luck, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No doubt.
And we didn't tell. I mean, I
did.
Oh, you did tell. Okay, perfect.
We got a gem of the day.
Right.
Quick,
so
20 seconds.
We have to do a quick 20-second gem of the day.
Yes.
I'll start.
Go
just
ahead.
so give y'all a little time to kind of think that through. But I would say that my gem of the day is really, creating space. So obviously it was my birthday about a week ago, but it's creating the space. Sometimes getting away from your normal environment can give you the opportunity to just think differently, right? And so I was away for about 10 days, and I honestly wrote another 3-year plan for my business while being away. Just had the time to think, right? And so I would say, give yourself that time and space. We're trying to work towards like an August free work month. That's the goal. We're gonna do it. Maybe next year. We're gonna see. Because this year is supposed to be 2 weeks, but you see, I've been back, so it is what it is. But with that 10 days away, I was able to really, have time for myself and really think forward. So
I love that for
give
you.
yourself some time. Yeah.
I would say one thing that I think about is there was a old saying that used to go across Facebook all the time was know your worth and add tax. And a lot of people will relate it to relationships, but I just relate it to life. And the reason being is because when you walk into rooms and when you're talking to people or you're on the golf course, you belong, right? And so know your worth, add tax, take up space. I tell you this all the time, Ron. So know your worth and add tax, and that is my gem of the day.
Love it.
Dang.
Yeah, I'm hard-headed. She keep telling me I'm hard-headed. I'll say my gem of the day, and I tell my students this all the time, pressure makes diamonds. Never be afraid to put yourself in a situation where you feel pressure, because oftentimes it brings the best out of you. I mean, a lot of what I've been accomplishing in just life, period, I didn't think I was ready for any of it. I didn't think I was ready for this podcast. I still get nervous, but in these moments, it typically brings the best out of you.
Beautiful. So my gem of the day, we've got a player competing in the USAM, and Francis Catalano. And I was reading about the tournament, and they described it as the United Nations of golf because for one of the first times, just the sheer number of countries represented. I think a first time a player from Uganda was competing in it. So United Nations of golf, just cool to see where the sport's going.
Awesome.
My gem of the day comes from my mom. My mom used to tell me all the time that a clear conscience makes for a soft pillow. And I try to operate within that capacity, both professionally and personally, and especially on a golf course. I try to always honor the game, honor life in that regard.
Awesome. I love it. It's beautiful. I would just kind of round it out by saying it's a phrase that I haven't heard myself say or think about in probably 3 or 4 years, but it's of yourself and those around you. Give grace and remove judgment.
Love it.
We're living in some tough times right now, and I think empathy is at a premium. And if you can do your best to imagine what the other person across the table is going through, it's going to help you connect with them faster. It's going to help you be a better friend, a better listener, a better collaborator, whatever the case may be, a better partner. So I think, leveraging empathy and that mindset of removing judgment and giving grace is going to go a long way.
Awesome. Thank you. So this has been such a dynamic episode.
Make sure you like, subscribe. Look, I got to plug it. Like, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. What else we on?
Spotify. Apple Podcasts.
Stitcher. I don't know. What else?
All of it.
All of that. All of that. So like, subscribe, follow us, engage with us. We have an event tomorrow. This probably won't come out by that time, but we'll do a recap of that as well. If you ever need folks to, I say folks, but if you ever need me and Kendra to host an event,
now you got to tell them what the event is.
Okay, so we are doing, and Jamil is a part of that as well, but we're going to be hosting the podcast area for the Black Women for Harris and Walls campaign. And so we're going to be having conversations with politicians and just talking about, their platform. What are y'all trying to get and gain? Oftentimes, people think that because you are a certain identity, you're going to connect immediately and align, but we want to just create a space where people can have questions and say, hey, does this align? And this is something that we want to align ourselves behind. So
we'll do a recap next time.
Yeah, let's do a recap. Awesome.
So really looking forward to that event. So this has been a great pod.
It has. Thank you, everybody, for coming on.
Thank you.
Right. So we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Peace.